Hello, hello. Hi, mommy. How's everybody doing? Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
Hi, Amber.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going, Karen? How are you?
Really great. Thank you. How's everybody on the other end?
Good.
Awesome. I'm
Patrick,
excited
put
to
your
be here
camera.
today.
Patrick, put your camera on like we care if you're eating. You know, he's sitting back there cracking up. Welcome to Lunch and Learn Wednesday. It is August 9th. We are talking about a volunteer army today and how to leverage volunteers for money. So we got a good presentation for you today that Amber and I will be leading. Shamber's back at it again. Oh my God, Amber, guess what we forgot again?
And I gave you the money making playlist.
I know, you gave me the playlist. I effed up. I effed up. Okay, I'm gonna give it like one more minute. We'll get started. I see a couple of people's are frozen in the waiting room, and so they're coming. Anybody have any accomplishments, any wins, any specials they'd like to share? Do we have a quiet group today? Alex, do we have any wins on the capacity building and funding side of the house?
I'm just applying away, and there was a cool webinar today about end of year fundraising. So that was interesting. Yeah.
Oh, cool. We'll definitely do a lunch and learn on end of year fundraising. Hello, dear Patrick. It is so nice to see your face.
I actually have a slight win. So I left the mission continues on the 31st was my last day. So
Officially, congratulations. I'm so excited for you. We have a full-time entrepreneur in the house.
So that's my excitement. I'm fully committed to this. So it's pretty exciting and scary and everything all at once, right?
Good for you. And by the way, your friend Miguel Vasquez, he started a nonprofit and it was just approved like the other week. So the Veterans
Nice.
Activist is a nonprofit now too. You got to follow up with him. Maybe you guys can collaborate.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll get it started. Jay, you're on participant duty. If you see anybody joining us, you can let them in. Amber and I will get started. Of course, let me get my screen up.
Enjoy. Oh, you want to say hi?
If you're not on mute, put yourself on mute. Gosh. Y'all, my parents, it doesn't even matter what age you are or where you are, they're going to do everything they can to make themselves known. I'm going to put her on mute. Oops. I didn't mean to ask you to unmute. I meant to mute you. Okay, everybody. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with Shamber. It's August 9th. We are going to be talking about leveraging volunteers to increase funding. I just want to start you guys with the thought of why volunteers are critical. We create stronger communities through the power of volunteers. And through the power of volunteers, we leverage money, we leverage partnerships, we leverage in-kind donations, and we service our community. So all of that together is why volunteers are critical to the whole success of the organization. So Amber and I have created a 12-step process and guide. We're going to put the PowerPoint in the private Facebook group. We will also email this out. So you guys will have this 12-step guide. This is your framework for creating a strong volunteer force. So we're going to talk about defining your mission and vision, which I don't know if some of you who have been coming every week notice that having a clear and defined mission and vision as part of your organization has been part of every single topic this whole entire time that we've been doing these lunch and learns, including the topic of the week, a couple of weeks ago when we talked about budgets. You have to have a clear mission and vision statement. So we'll talk about that. Developing a comprehensive volunteer program. We have tons of downloadables for you. Releases of liabilities, media releases, handbooks, all sorts. We'll get into that. Outreach and recruitment strategies, engage and train, foster supportive community, demonstrating impact, recognition and appreciation, feedback on continuous improvement, empowering volunteers to be advocates, collaborating, measuring, and communicating impact. And then of course, being able to create opportunities for growth. And we'll kind of open up for Q&A. So this is your 12-step guidebook for creating your empowered volunteer force. So let's kind of dive into it. This one I'm not going to spend long on because we talk about this one every single week. So really it's just a matter of you having your defined mission and vision statement. Is it clear? Do you know who you're serving? When you tell me your mission statement, do I know exactly? Are you a youth organization? Are you ending homelessness? Are you fighting food injustice? Are you mental health? Are you serving veterans? I should know all of that just from your initial mission statement. And then it should be compelling. Like it should make us feel some type of way. I want to feel some heart when I hear your mission statement. And so do volunteers. So that's why this is step one, define your mission and vision statement. As usual, I forgot to mention, if you guys have questions, just go off mute and just ask us. Amber, Jay, and I'll keep an eye on the chat box, but just interrupt with questions. You know how we like to keep this fairly informal, so that way we can have dialogue too. Okay, step 2, develop a comprehensive volunteer program. It needs to be structured with diverse roles, outline responsibilities, expectations, and benefits. So here's what's going to be critical. If you're in our private Facebook group, later this evening, we will be posting in there some templates for you for creating your volunteer program. We have a templated volunteer handbook for you. We have a templated media release for you. We have a templated release of liability for you. We have a templated volunteer job description for you. Y'all can literally and copy paste this shit. I don't know. Can I see some faces in the private Facebook group? We have for you templated volunteer handbooks, templated media releases, templated release of liabilities, templated volunteer job description roles. All that shit is in the private Facebook group. For the faces I can see. Yeah, that's what thank you, Patrick. Thank you. I saw that. Thank you, Karen. Y'all know I like a little interaction back. It just makes me feel special. Okay.
Dr. Sharon, I'm jumping in the car really quick, but I'm going to drive. You know, this is the lunch hour, so I'm out and about. But
Karen, I always know you're with
us.
us. I always know you're with us. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay.
Okay. I'll go back to sharing my screen. I just wanted to make sure that was really clear to folks that what we have for you in our private Facebook group for free. So if you're not in our private Facebook group, make sure you friend request either Amber or myself, and we will add you into that Facebook group. We'll also send a link out after today's call so you guys can jump into that too. That's a lot of downloadable templates today. Like, I got excited and I made the templates. Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so with these templated downloadables, you guys will be able to brand them to your nonprofit. You can customize them if there's specific wording in your mission and vision statement and any specific roles that you guys have. So ensure that your comprehensive volunteer program, you've got a handbook, maybe it's an orientation, maybe it's a come hang out with us for a day so that we can understand how we operate, and clear roles and responsibilities, expectations, and benefits. And by benefits, I mean, you know, just being a part of the organization. If they're an employee, that's something different. But sometimes some volunteers, if they come, maybe the expectation is that you provide lunch every single time they come, that you provide them a t-shirt representing your nonprofit. Those are some things I would definitely recommend that you provide to your volunteers. T-shirts, maybe water bottles. Definitely have a little bit of merch so that they feel a really good, solid part of your guys' organization. Any questions on developing a comprehensive volunteer program before I move on? Oh, Evelyn, I see your comment in the chat box. And hi, Evelyn. We love you so much. Okay. Evelyn says, wondering about how to give folks their tax deduction for in-kind donations. That is a damn good question because that's something we run into every single week on really how to do that. So here's how you do it. In our private Facebook group, and Evelyn, I may have sent this to you before, but I can't remember, but you can download it from our private Facebook group. It's a template for a contribution thank you to donors. And with that contribution template, instead of saying thank you for your $500 donation, you're going to say thank you for your 5 laptops. Thank you for your 25 rolls of toilet paper. Thank you for your 15 cars. Whatever it is that they donated to you, you're going to thank them for that amount. You do not put a dollar value. That dollar value is up to them and their CPA to handle that. You as the nonprofit, stay out of that. Evelyn, I hope that answers your question. I just want to know, Evelyn, are you getting donations of marijuana? Can I just ask? I just want to know because, if you need to share, just, let me know and I could probably help, you with that. Just curious, Okay, I'm going to take that part out of the recording. Okay. Oh, you haven't had anything yet. Okay. But that's how you do it. You just take the same thank you letter like you would for a monetary donation. And then instead of the monetary value, you put the in-kind amount, not monetary value, in-kind amount. Good question. Okay. Step 3 in creating your volunteer workforce, outreach and recruitment strategies. You want to utilize social media, your website, local events. Here's the key part to creating your recruitment strategy. And I believe actually, Patrick, I don't know if this may have been how I met you bazillion years ago. I was looking for volunteers for an organization. So I emailed everyone and my mama, and I spread the word and asked people to volunteer. People I didn't even know. And I do recall, I think that's how I met you, Patrick, was I was working on an outreach event and stumbled upon Mission Continues, stumbled upon you, and then, boom, it was from there. So when I was running youth programs and I needed youth programs, and then one of my biggest events were these veteran stand downs, and we needed hundreds of volunteers because we were serving hundreds and hundreds of veterans in one day. I partnered with banks. I don't know if you guys know, banks pay their employees to volunteer. Let me just make sure that that's clear. If you need a large amount of volunteers, you can go to your local bank, and I highly suggest you should be making your bank a partner of yours anyway. But if you go to your bank and ask them if they have a volunteer program, they more than likely pay their employees to volunteer. So partner with your local bank. That's one of the best ways to get it. Okay. So that's that one. Then one of my other all-time favorite places for volunteers is the local colleges and the local universities. One of the best places. Students need volunteer hours, especially high school students. A lot of them are required to complete community service hours. Colleges sometimes also require that. Pacific Oaks College in Los Angeles, they actually pay their employees to volunteer. There's a volunteer program. And then sometimes they also require their staff to, I think there's this collective goal of 2,500 hours per year of collective volunteer hours. So colleges and universities are always looking for opportunities. So you can find tons of your volunteers there. Here's why this is also critical. These volunteers, they turn into donors. Patrick, good point. Many large companies have employee resource groups that encourage volunteer opportunities. So definitely look at the Boeings, look at the Raytheons, look at what are some other large companies in the Southern California area? Southern California, Edison, they all have employee resource groups. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, all of them. Anybody else had a really good success story with getting volunteers for events that they want to share? I can't see faces or hands, so if somebody wants to share, just pop in. Patrick, I know you're always having to mobilize tons of volunteers. What was one of your all-time favorite ways of getting volunteers?
It's mostly it's collaborating, right, with other groups. So you can't. One thing I learned was try to find those people who can amplify your message, who are like the key people within other organizations, and utilize them to kind of help do it. So find the other organizations that have similar like things and go, hey, can you support? And then also obviously collaborate by supporting them as well. So that's the key, is you can't be a one-way street, because they'll
Yep.
sniff that out super fast. Like if you're only ever asking them for things and you're never providing it, that well dries up really fast.
Good point. Yeah, excellent point. I know if you're any of nonprofits and you're in Los Angeles, a really good nonprofit. So some nonprofits are actually, their mission is to volunteer and do community service. So there's a nonprofit called the Do Good Bus in Los Angeles. Great opportunity for folks to partner with. They mobilize volunteer units. And actually, there's a lot of nonprofits that do that. So you can always Google nonprofits that volunteer. Project Giving Kids, they mobilize youth to come volunteer. That's how I met you, Patrick, was Project Giving Kids, I think through them. Yeah. But I had already heard about the organization prior, but I think you had joined at the time. So that's a really great way to mobilize volunteers. And what's key to remember, volunteers turn into donors. Volunteers turn into donors. Okay. Let me go back to this slide real quick. I'm going to pull it up at the end. There's a organization called AmeriCorps, and AmeriCorps also has volunteer programs. So you can visit AmeriCorps.gov. They have, and I'll put that in the chat actually, AmeriCorps.gov. They have volunteer opportunities, and they also help mobilize volunteers for events. They also have programs that will come and they'll pay people to be in your organization to create you a volunteer program, like a very robust volunteer program. So there's tons and tons of resources out there. We'll share this in the private Facebook group too. But the places like AmeriCorps is really good, especially if you've got a little bit of budget to kind of boost your volunteer program. That's a good one to reach out to. You can pay, it used to be $10,000. I don't know what it is now, but you would be able to pay $10,000 and then they would pay a full-time salary for someone to come and build you a robust volunteer program. Policies, handbooks, liabilities, like all that stuff, which we have for you guys in the Facebook group, but they have some of that stuff too. They'll come in and actually build it out for your organization. Okay, let me pause for a minute. Any questions on outreach and recruitment? Any comments? Okay, all right, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, step 4. Engage and train volunteers effectively. Just like when you're starting a new job, you cannot expect someone to come into a new job and immediately know what to do on the job that day. They're going to need a little bit of an orientation to your organization. And depending on what task they're doing, they're definitely going to need some training on that specific task. If there's a specific way you have to make a PB&J sandwich, they need to be trained on that. If there's a specific way in which they have to interact with the youth of your organization, they need training on that. They also need training if, for example, if they're serving food and you have to have a food handler's permit, they may have to take those kinds of trainings. So be sure to understand what role your volunteer has so that you can provide orientations to your organization, training to properly equip them, and make sure that they go through your employee handbook. Another plug to get plugged in, that employee handbook, we have a templated one in our private Facebook group. Okay. Any questions on engaging and training volunteers effectively? These steps are really straightforward. We do that on purpose. We want this to be easy for you guys. I'm going to say it like 5 billion times during just our hour today. Volunteers become donors. I think at the end, I'm gonna turn off the screen share and we'll have it all say at once, because I think that actually would be a really cool video. Y'all are gonna kill me. Okay. Step 5, foster a supportive community. Just like with employees and morale, you want to do the same thing with volunteers. Organize social events and team building activities. Yes, we do this for volunteers. Even more so for volunteers, I want to do it for them because they're volunteering. So I want to have opportunities for our volunteers to get to know each other, to build relationships, to team build, because sometimes at some of these events, they can be very stressful. And who do you have to rely on? The volunteer next to you. Ooh, Ma Elephant, good points. Some donors work for companies that will match employee donations. Okay, this is why this statement is critical. Let me go back to the slide that had to do with. Okay, so when we're talking back on step number 3, outreach and recruitment strategies, and why it's critical that having this donor force be so strong, because donors turn into, volunteers turn into dollars. That is because some of your volunteers might work for companies that will match their employee donation. So let's say you've got like 1,000 volunteers and 500 of them work for a company that will match a donation. That's a shit ton of money, unrestricted. Microsoft, Intel, tons of others. So be sure to, when you are bringing on new volunteers into your organization, be sure to ask them where they work. So if you have an intake form for your volunteers, have on that intake form place of employment. So that way you can do some research to see where they work, to see if they, well, one, where they work for matching donations, but 2, maybe that company has a foundation and a community service arm and a grant opportunity. That was a good one, Mama Elephant. Okay. So back to step 5, fostering a supportive community. This is critical to empowering nonprofits for funding success, because creating that strength and that bond between volunteers, I call it drinking the Kool-Aid. So they drank your Kool-Aid, they drank the Kool-Aid of the other volunteers. Now everybody's friends and family members, and everybody comes and volunteers together all the time. And it's kind of like you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to see you at the next event because that's my friend. So it cultivates a sense of belonging and camaraderie. That's why you see big veteran groups, because of that sense of camaraderie. That's why that's critical. And I see that the strongest in those veteran groups. I really do. Okay. Step 6, demonstrate impact. If I'm volunteering for an organization, I want to know that what we're doing is making a difference. So when you do your team building, your orientation, your welcome videos, share stories of success, share statistics. Tangible results are critical. It helps highlight the roles that these volunteers play in achieving the goal of your organization. So by sharing these stories, like one thing I like to do, I was working with a nonprofit called Engage the Vision, and we would highlight a volunteer of the week or MVP volunteer of the month to showcase our volunteers and the work that they're doing, and to demonstrate how impactful they are on the community. Does anybody that's worked with volunteers have any cool impact stories of volunteer? Go ahead, My Elephant.
Well, giving kind of begets giving.
Yeah.
And I remember one event I was at in Southern California, and I was trying to encourage people to become an annual giver. And that's in our organization, that's $1,000 a year. And somebody stepped up and became a annual giver. And then somebody else did. And then somebody else did. And this was a group of compatriots. I mean, they were friends. They've been to events together. They've hung out together. Some of them were even relatives. Giving begets giving.
Yeah, and it really, like, you kind of have like a pretty solid sisterhood with your group of volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very solid.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, thank you for sharing that. That was a really good one. Anybody else have any cool impact stories with volunteers and organizations?
I have one. I just-
Okay, Miss Alex, share with us.
So probably one of my favorite places to volunteer at is Feed My Starving Children. And they have several locations now, but they're like also in Illinois. And so last time I was there for like a few hours, we packed 111 boxes. We packed 23,976 meals, and we fed 65 children for a year. So that's kind of fun. They always show that at the end.
Wow. See, now that like those kind of impact statistics, that makes you want to volunteer. You know, it makes you want to be a part of that organization because you want to be a part of that impact. Okay. Ooh, that was a good one, Alex. Okay. So that's the critical component of demonstrating impact. Okay, let's go to step 7. Recognition and appreciation. Acknowledge volunteers through social media, newsletters, events, critical to show gratitude to boost morale and commitment. This is how you keep your volunteers. Recognition and appreciation. This is how you keep your volunteers. Maybe you have a volunteer luncheon, a volunteer dinner. Maybe it's just like a ice cream social. Another thing that you could do so you can bring in money is there are restaurants that if you sign up for fundraising night at that restaurant, you can, anyone who comes that night, the restaurant will donate a certain percent back to the nonprofit. So imagine having a volunteer recognition and dinner on the same night as the night where everybody comes and purchases food, and the cost of all the food a portion of that goes back to the nonprofit. It's like a win-win. Coach La, you have a question regarding volunteers. Ask away, my dear.
Yeah, sorry about that. So we have a connection with SoFi Stadium, and they
Oh God,
pay
I'm
us.
so glad you're on here today. I'm so
Yeah.
glad. You're right. Okay, this is killer for the LA folks. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so SoFi Stadiums, I don't know if any of you are aware, they allow you to send volunteers, right, to go volunteer at their concession stands during NFL games, doing concerts. And this is actually for any football stadium or stadium that hosts concerts. They usually have an NPO coordinator. My question is, if we are sending volunteers and that literally fundraise money for us, do you think companies will have an issue if we're requesting, for them to provide volunteers for us for something of that nature?
No, you can totally do that. I remember you telling me about this before. I think that's a great way to get the volunteers, have them go under that program, and then in turn, the money comes back to the nonprofit organization. I think that's fantastic. You already know how I operate. Just have some sort of
Yes.
memorandum of understanding in place. Make sure you know the contract or the agreement is placed so that you ensure you get that money for your organization, and you have a tracking mechanism for the individuals that volunteered, so that way you can kind of cross-reference and follow up either on the SoFi side or like that company side. But that's a great way to do it. So like imagine if you went to the bank and the bank pays the employees to volunteer. You have all those employees sign up under the SoFi program, and then your organization not only gets like that, but also cut that check. Like killer. Yeah. Coach, I have to tell you, my mom, she sent me a private DM on here, but I'm going to call her out on here. You know, our last name is Elephant. And if everyone could look at Coach's shirt, it's an elephant. So y'all know this is already my favorite nonprofit.
Appreciate it.
You're a fan of the whole herd, a family. Okay,
Sharon, 2 questions.
sure.
So a question regarding volunteers, and then also, can you explain the restaurant thing again?
Yes. Okay. Let me just give like an exact example. I think Buffalo Wild Wings does it. So if you go to like Buffalo Wild Wings or I'm trying to think all those like kind of chain restaurants, go to Buffalo Wild Wings, ask them if you can host a fundraiser there. The restaurant has its own program for fundraising night. So what happens is everyone who comes to the Buffalo Wild Wings that night and says, I'm with Pass It Forward Foundation, then a percent of all of the money that people from Pass It Forward Foundation that night will go to Pass It Forward Foundation. Kiana, what nonprofit are you with?
Find Community Connection Project.
Okay, cool. And are you in Los Angeles or are you in a different state?
I'm in New York.
Oh, you're in New York. Fantastic. Okay. So same thing in New York. Go to one of those like chain style restaurants and ask them if they do have a fundraising program. And so what I was saying is you could also do your volunteer appreciation that night. And so volunteers, I would suggest that they can eat for free, that the nonprofit pay for them. But let's say they all bring like 5 friends, each volunteer, and all those friends purchase food on that same fundraising night. A percent of all the proceeds from Buffalo Wild Wings that night will go to your nonprofit organization. Does that better explain it?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Where in New York are you? We love New York.
Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. That's where my dad's side of the family is originally from, right there in I think off the 12. Oh, my mom will have to comment on that one if she remembers, right? Oh, she's giving the hands up. She don't remember nothing. Okay. All right. But it was Brooklyn. Okay, so let's move on. I spent some time up in Moshalou Parkway. Other than that, you know, it's really just city play. Okay, let me go back to the screen. So just remember, for the restaurant stuff, typically it's a chain style restaurant, but you can check and see if your local restaurants will do it too. I would much rather support a local restaurant to establish that relationship, because maybe they'll become food sponsors for any of your events. And I love to support local and family owned restaurants. So check your local restaurants, but also check the chain ones too. And perfect. And just, you know, thank you, Patrick. He is the founder of Force Multipliers. It's a veteran service organization. He just put a link to restaurants that do fundraising in the chat box. Groupraise.com has like every restaurant in there, but don't forget to check your local restaurants too. Okay. Step 8, feedback and continuous improvement. So just like with anything that we do in life, the best way to improve, to enhance, to grow personally and professionally is to get feedback to enhance the program. Okay. Ask your volunteers and have them feel a part of your nonprofit organization. You'll be surprised. Some of these volunteers, you may get a volunteer that's like, I know how to do financial management. Like maybe if Amber's a volunteer of your organization, Amber will come in and overhaul your whole entire financial infrastructure. Y'all, if any of you ever can get Amber to volunteer, I'll pay you $100. Mark my word. I have $100 Visa gift card. I will pay you $100 if you can get Miss Amber to come and volunteer. Okay. So critical, involve your volunteers in your organization and include them as part of the process. You can ask them for feedback on your programs. You can ask them for feedback on your policies and procedure. You can ask them for feedback on donor cultivation and fundraising. Some of these volunteers have some major connections. Volunteers become donors. Anybody have any examples that they want to share about like something cool you learned about a volunteer you had no idea this volunteer was going to have for your organization, or a skill set that they had? Anybody have? Oh, Patrick, go ahead.
So with the Mission Continues, we did a lot of school projects, and for some reason they wanted a lot of murals. We did a ton of murals all of a sudden. And but our volunteers are not necessarily artistically skilled. And my wife was doing a project at this one place, and this guy came up and was starting to freehand, and he was doing amazing art. And so she started talking to him, and it turned out this guy was an artist at Disney, who's one of the volunteers groups that came out. And so we started talking to him, said, hey, you know, we have these people who want to do these big murals, and I don't have the capacity to pay a muralist to what they would have to do it. Would you be willing to come out and like sketch out like the day before a mural so that our volunteers can kind of like paint by numbers, right? They'll just fill in the blanks. And he's like, yeah. And so just by my wife talking to this one person that just happened to come to an event and connecting, you never know, like all of a sudden we were able to do 100-foot wall mural at another school that was amazing, that looked great. And he was able to like, it was a nursery school rhyme, nursery rhyme kind of mural. But you would have never done it if we hadn't talked to him and asked him and say, hey, what's up? And then asked it, and then also asked, hey, would you be willing to help us do this? Because honestly, if I had done a 100-foot wall with a muralist, that's like a $20,000 mural if I asked them
Easy.
professionals to do it, at least minimum, and that's like
Yeah.
friends and family rate. So that's the kind of crazy stuff. You just gotta ask, hey, what are you doing?
God, that was a good example. That's awesome. I like that. Anybody else have an example that they want to share?
I have one.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm moving around from room to room, so I don't have my video on. But I had a volunteer come to one of our events we had at a local park, and she volunteered quite a few times for one of our events. And then later, she asked if we needed any support with human resources, and I found out she did this for a local hospital, and she wanted to do it for us for free. And she's been working with us since. So you just kind of never know. It was pretty awesome to kind of have that support, and she really kind of enjoyed what we did. So it was nice that we continued to keep inviting her, and then she just happened to share that information with us later on.
That's cool. See, you just never know the skill set of some people. And that's why it's critical to have these recognition nights, the team building nights, that to get to know your volunteers. When you have a volunteer intake form, ask them who they work for. You know, you can even on your volunteer intake form, and I think I might have it on the template that I provide to you guys, but asking them what are some of their skill sets so you know ahead of time. Okay, step 9. We have 12 steps. It's like a 12-step program. This is our 12-step program at the Nonprofit Plug. We fixed your mind, body, and soul. Okay, empower volunteers as advocates. So what does this mean? This means encourage volunteers to share their experiences with others, leverage their stories to attract funding and support. So here's why this is critical, because volunteers become donors. When a volunteer drinks the Kool-Aid of your nonprofit, that means they will blast your nonprofit to the whole world. They'll talk about it nonstop. They'll talk about you nonstop. They'll talk about the programs nonstop. They'll talk about the need of the organization nonstop. It is critical to have these relationships with volunteers. Volunteers become donors. Donors mean money for your organization. That's why leveraging a strong volunteer workforce means leveraging funding. So encourage your volunteers to share their experiences with others, to invite a friend to the next event, to tell their story. One thing I used to really love to do when I was executive director with Engage the Vision is we would go film volunteers and ask them to almost like give a testimonial of their experience. We did a youth program every Friday. We didn't miss one Friday in 10 years. Not one Friday in 10 years. And some of those mentors that were with us for the whole 10 years. And so to capture their story, you could just feel the light from their video and from when they talked, and it made you want to go volunteer. And then it made you want to donate. That was the coolest part. Anybody have anything they want to share on volunteers that have become advocates? For Amber and I, this is actually probably where we step in the most, because we're talking to different clients and nonprofits every single day and hearing their story. And in turn, we end up becoming an advocate for each of our nonprofit clients and for each of the organizations that we partner with. Whenever we hear about ooh, someone here wants to support veterans, I shoot them to Patrick. Ooh, someone wants to support youth sports, I send them to Coach Lottie over at Pass It Forward Foundation. Ooh, I hear someone wants to support cannabis advocacy, we'll send them over to Evelyn. These are the types of things that we do as advocates for our organization, and volunteers do the same thing. Any questions or comments on advocacy and volunteers becoming donors and donors becoming money? Y'all are going to go to bed tonight and you all are going to dream about my repetitive statement. I wish it sounded more annoying, but I don't think it's as annoying as it sounds. But I just want everyone to go to sleep tonight. God, Dr. Sharon, volunteers become donors, donors become money, volunteers become donors, donors become money. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next step.
That's a shirt idea, Sharon.
Ooh, I like that. And then maybe a percent of the proceeds goes to some of our clients.
Merchandise coming soon.
Okay, merchandise coming soon. Volunteers become donors. Donors become money. Now I need a little bit of a beat to it. Okay. I got made fun of this morning for my lack of rhythm. So I don't care though. I'm going to be dancing for life. I don't care if it's good or not. Okay. Step 10, collaborate with supporters. Engage your volunteers in fundraising initiatives. Okay. Picture this. You have 20 volunteers. 20 volunteers volunteer for your phone-a-thon. Those 20 volunteers call 20 people and they call another 20 people. And if each of those people are donating $100, somebody tell me what's 20 times 100? $20 times 100. What's that? 20,000? I think it's 20,000, right? Somebody check my math. In one day, 20 volunteers raise $20,000. Engage your volunteers in fundraising initiatives. It helps strengthen the relationships with donors and partners. Donors and partners, foundations, grantors, they want to see that you have volunteers that have drank the Kool-Aid of your organization and believe in what you do and are part of what you do. Everyone loves to support a nonprofit that other people love to support. So it's critical to strengthen relationships with donors and partners. Any questions on that one? Okay. Step 11, measure and communicate impact. So collect, this is critical. And Alex, if you're still here, I might have you comment on the importance of this for grant applications. Grant applications ask you data about your volunteers. So be sure you're measuring. Alex, are you on here? My screen doesn't show you, but I think you're here.
Yep, I'm here.
Will you kind of give us a little overview of grant applications that ask about volunteer information? Because I think people don't really realize on some grant applications how comprehensive and complex they are, that they want to know even down to the detail of this kind of stuff. Will you kind of give us an overview of, what do grants ask about volunteers?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times there's sections in grants where they ask about things like demographics of your board of directors. That's a common one, in your staff and your volunteers. So they want to know things such as, age, race, ethnicity, LGBTQIA, affiliations, and things of that nature, age. Those are things that grants definitely will ask for. And then in terms of just impact data in general, you could totally add things like, this many hours of volunteers were, sorry, I'm stumbling. Like this many volunteers help us annually and they put in this many hours and things of that nature. Yeah, more data, the better. And you definitely just want to craft a compelling narrative in general with all the data you're collecting.
Do some of the grant applications like to know, like, of the volunteers, how many are men, women, youth, race, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, each funder is different, but I have seen that before. Mhm.
So with that being said, on your intake form for your volunteers, be sure you're asking this data. And I would recommend that your intake form be like a Google form so that it automatically populates into an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Step 12. Create opportunities for growth. Everyone coming into an organization, whether you're a volunteer, an employee, or whatever, love to have the opportunity to know that there is more for them. They want to be a part of a bigger picture, right? This is where we can kind of get into mindset. Maybe Amber, you can touch on mindset for a couple of minutes and the importance of that when you're coming in to be a part of something. Don't you want to feel there's more, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because they're there, they're already committed. And so you already have their immediate buy-in and you just have to give them more through the experience. And then also by getting their opinions with the feedback. So Sharon, for the intake form, do you have a template?
Not for the Google form template, but I do have a template for an intake form that's on paper that people can turn into a Google form.
And then do you also have an example of what an after, hey, we'd love to hear your feedback?
No, but we can add that to the Facebook group, like a little survey. Yeah. And then it
Because-
goes into an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, it does. And then it goes to what's statistically significant and not. And then
Ooh, talk to me dirty, Amber.
yeah, no, it just
Yeah,
gets really exciting.
I love it. Exactly.
Yeah, but it's all those things because I mean, think like the individual. You guys like to be asked your opinion. You guys like to give input, etc. And sometimes it's valuable. So the more that you're collaborating with the individuals that are there to support you, I mean, you can't go wrong. But obviously, you don't want that to take away from the actual operations and what have you. So you definitely, like Sharon said, on the front end, do your training, get everybody onboarded properly. But all of that is from the systems and the processes. So definitely leverage the tools that we're going to throw into the Facebook group, have your binders, and then when people continue to support you, they come in and they're already very knowledgeable. Then they turn into your trainers. Then they turn into your
Yeah. Ooh,
advocates.
train
right?
the trainers. Yeah.
Then train the trainers.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Good point. So see how it's critical. All of this comes together. You may even have a volunteer that's really good at creating these Google forms and these surveys and creating this environment that Amber is talking about to ensure that you have a strong volunteer program. So maybe you've got some volunteers that don't have a skill set for one area, but your nonprofit can provide that skill set training.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then, Sharon, can you kind of like give us some insight? So for example, how many of you guys have gone to a volunteer thing and not necessarily been the volunteer, but been the end user for, I don't know, a turkey trot or something, right? And then at the registration desk, it's a clusterfuck. So, I mean, that happens so many
Oh
times.
my God, more often than not.
Disaster, right? So obviously, perfect example of what you don't want your event to look like, hence the reason you need to, allocate some time and what have you to onboard people. But Sharon, when you do have these volunteers that come in, let's say, for instance, I come in as a volunteer and I have a skill set or two, and I start to be very overzealous, who me possibly, right? How do you handle the overzealous volunteer who's whipping out their MacBook and creating a spreadsheet and a whole system for you when that's not something that you're doing? I mean, do you embrace, do you sideline them?
Here's what I do, because we don't want to disrespect anyone or make them feel some type of way, but here's what I do. This is when you have to learn how to have hard conversations and be able to communicate effectively. I would say, Amber, your skill set is the shit. At this time, here's what our organization needs. We don't have the capacity to do as deep a dive as you want to do.
Okay.
But could you please just focus on this one part? And then we'll circle back to the rest of that when we have the ability to, comprehend what you're saying and to receive what you're saying. Because if you can't receive it, you can't implement it. And then you're going to get resentment as a volunteer. The volunteer is going to be like, what the fuck? So we don't want that. We want to be able to have volunteers feel impactful, to feel valued. So I would say again, Amber, your skill set is the shit. Can you focus on this one part for now? And we'll circle back on the complexity of the rest of it later, because my capacity as a founder, and we're kind of like an organization really still trying to get together, is to really only handle this one part. And this is the one thing I need fixed. So can we focus on that one part? And then I would love to circle back and hear the rest that you can do for our organization.
Yeah.
How do you feel as a volunteer when I say it like that to you?
Love it. I feel like I've been heard. I feel like I still have valuable things that I'd like to present, and you'll be getting an email by morning.
Spreadsheeted. Okay. So here's why it's critical to have a strong volunteer workforce. Enhances your nonprofit's capacity, leverages funding because you have committed volunteers. These are the 12, this is our nonprofit plug 12-step program to creating a thriving community that supports your mission. So let me just remind you of those 12 steps, and then we're going to open it for questions. Define and have a clear mission and vision. Develop a comprehensive volunteer program. Outreach and recruitment strategies. Engage and train. Foster a supportive community. Demonstrate impact. Recognition and appreciation. Feedback and continuous improvement. Empower volunteers. collaborate with supporters, measure and communicate impact, and create opportunities for growth. You follow the 12-step program for leveraging a volunteer force, you will not only leverage volunteers, you will leverage funding, because volunteers turn into donors and donors turn into money. Volunteers turn into donors and donors turn into money. I feel like we need some beats in the background for that. And this is going to be a viral TikTok. Am I right? Okay. Okay. So that is today's Lunch and Learn on leveraging volunteers for funding. These hours go by so fast. At first, I'm always like, oh my God, I don't have enough content to share. And then I'm like, I didn't get to share half the content I wanted to. So I hope these are valuable for you guys. We will be requesting feedback as well. If there's topics you want us to cover, drop them in the chat box, put them in the private Facebook group, email us. Thank you, Coach, for participating. I super appreciate it. Thank you, all of you who have participated. It is open for open questions and discussion. So Amber and I will be on here for the next 4 minutes. Ask away if you've got questions, if you've got comments, topics that you want. It's so good. Like some of these faces, I love seeing. We've got new people every week. I love this. Okay, Evelyn, we'll have those Facebook templates in there for you. Give me till tonight. I'm going to drop them all in there at the same time. When I put the recording for today, the recording will go into Facebook also. Questions, comments. Volunteers turn into donors and donors turn into money. And we all love money. We all love money. No mo problems, mo money. It's mo money, mo awesomeness. Yes, Miss Alex.
I just wanted to let everyone know there's a Karma for Kara Foundation micro grant for youth volunteers. So any students ages 18 years or under can get $250 to $1,000 to complete service projects in their communities throughout the US. So I'll drop a link in the box below, and it's
Oh, that is cool. Definitely
Yeah.
drop that link, and I'll put it in the Facebook group too. If you're not in our private Facebook group, find me or Amber on Facebook so that we can add you. Shamber for the win for the herd today. Due in October. Cool. So people actually have some time to apply to that. We have quite a few youth serving organizations, so that's a cool opportunity. Nice find. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. We will see you next week. Next week's topic, we're going to be with Floyd from Give Butter. It's a donor management platform. He's going to be going over donor cultivation, fundraising, and how to leverage your fundraising platform. That's going to be a good one. Every single time we have Lunch and Learn, money's always going to be incorporated because we always want to improve money for our organizations.
Ooh, Sharon, can I share something with Patrick real quick? Hold on, Patrick. Let me show you something.
Patrick's always down for the share.
Oh yeah. Also, I'm willing to share. I literally just spent the last 6 years of my life doing volunteer management. So if you need any help, we did a ton of work on that. So I am very in.
That was your primary focus, wasn't it? Like mobilizing volunteer forces for like events?
Yes, that was it. I was a regional operations manager for all of the Southwest United States. So we did stuff in Phoenix, all the way to Sacramento and Bay Area. So, and just getting projects done, doing volunteer work and managing volunteers, and everything you're saying is literally everything they did poorly was the reason like you're saying those things. And I'm like, yes, we need to do that. And we did it badly there. And that's why eventually I had to leave, because I'm like, look, it's not rocket science what we're doing. You just have to do the work.
You just have to do the work. Exactly. So everyone, that's Patrick Ketchum. He's the founder of Force Multipliers. You can totally find him on social media. He's also in our private Facebook group. Go ahead and ask questions in there. And he's definitely a good resource for volunteer mobilization. Thank you, Patrick. That's a good one. Okay, Amber, what you got to share with him?
Yeah, so I got an award the other day. I have a DMV registration service business, and one of my partners, her husband, is in the reserves, and they awarded our business the employer support of the Guard and Reserve, the Patriotic Employer Award. And so apparently it's a really big deal, but really, really big deal for big companies who have departments that are liaisons that really go above and beyond to support, especially, you know, individuals who are deployed and what have you, and help, you know, ensuring that they're supported, that things don't change too quickly, that when they come back, you know, they can come back seamlessly and stuff. And so we went to the luncheon. I learned so much in those couple hours by the individuals who had nominated their employers and like the programs that they had. And it was my first view and insight into that world. And I was like, oh yeah, that's absolutely needed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to learn about.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing is you never know like who you're talking to, the awards, these events, these are all opportunities to kind of connect with people. Okay, we're about to shut down here. Any final questions, comments? Otherwise, y'all are free for today. Have a fantastic rest of your week. See you next week on Wednesday at 1 p.m. for donor cultivation and fundraising. Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you in the private Facebook group. We'll send out an email today with a follow-up from everything today, templates, guidebooks, all the good shit.